Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes with you, this sultry voice, which I will not be maintaining for the entirety of this recording here right now of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show that we have performed on December 6, 2022. Holiday season is kicking into full gear, but that doesn't mean that pro wrestling needs to take a back seat. I'm going to still be here. We're still going to be talking about pro wrestling. And there's a bunch of stuff to talk about. But before we do, you know the deal at this point. If you're listening to this on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, which, by the way, we record live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. If you can make it at some point, that'd be great. But otherwise, if you're listening right now, consider giving a like. And if this is your first time here, consider subscribing as well. That way, you'll never miss another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show proper. Plus, you won't miss out on my AEW Dynamite reviews that come out every Thursday. And if you become a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel, on top of that, you get exclusive live streams like Going Broadway, which I do every Friday to break down even more wrestling talk with specifically members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. So it shows a little support and it's very appreciated. Plus you get some extra little goodies that you can come and join in and chat and have another good time. So that's a lot of fun. So that's what. So that's one part there. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, hey, 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating on Spotify. Those things are fantastic and really, really help grow the channel. And I appreciate anything that you can show and do and just to show the algorithms. Now, what I do ain't so bad, It's sure, I'm the best D-list podcast out there, but I have an A+ audience listening right now. So I appreciate it. Thank you all very much. Programming note, this Saturday, December 10, is going to be, I'm going to be joining the Lariate community of French wrestling enthusiasts. That's right, the French wrestling community has invited me to join them on revealing their top wrestlers of the year, top 30 lists, top wrestlers, top female wrestlers, top tag teams. It sounds really, really exciting, and I'm going to be talking French for a couple of hours. So if you're into that, if you just want to come hang around and, listen to me talking a language that maybe you don't understand, or if you do, you have no reason not to come. If you don't, well, come make fun of me. But keep an eye on all my socials, as for start time and all that. It should be around 4 p.m. Eastern here in North America, 10 p.m. European Central European time. So look, that'll be a lot of fun, and I'm excited to do it. I'm very, very humbled that they invited me over. So that'll be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. Listen, and speaking of fun, well, we've got some fun over in the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord, which you should join. The link is in the description. Tonight we're talking about William Regal. I do a pretty extensive breakdown of things that I feel aren't working quite well in AEW these days, which in some cases actually kind of stinks. So we do that, a preview Final Battle as well, talk about New Japan's, the finals of World Tag League and Super Junior Tag League coming up. So, hey, why waste any more time and just get to it, right? Am I right? I'm all right. Thank you for being here. Before we start officially with the proceedings tonight, we got news earlier. Well, just yesterday, right? Yeah, exactly. Just yesterday, we got the news that wrestling legend Barry Windham is in ICU after suffering a heart attack. The 62-year-old Windham suffered a massive heart attack while traveling through the Atlanta airport on Friday night. He is in the intensive care unit after undergoing an emergency procedure. This was revealed by Windham's niece, Mika Rotunda, who says, as a family, we are impatiently waiting to hear that he will be okay, but as of now, the future is uncertain. This is very, very terrible news to have picked up here. I'm not going to eulogize or get into a full obituary mode here because Windham is still alive, I wish him nothing but the best and a full a full recovery so that he can get back to his feet. It would be awful to me anyway to consider ending the year on such a sour note. Otherwise, it's like I mentioned. I believe I talked about it in the Discord a little bit, where for me this is one that kind of hits hard when I really started diving more into wrestling in the 90s. Barry Windham was one of these wrestlers that I was exposed to after maybe, I guess, the peak of his career, when he was, the Four Horsemen stuff, the NWA, mostly, towards the early to mid 90s. Maybe, I think it's safe to say that Barry Windham wasn't at the peak of his game anymore. So he was one of the first wrestlers that I was like, oh, well, I'll go back and watch, because everyone was always so high on him and very complimentary, and his early work is so fantastic for the time, and it's weird to me to think that he's in this position, a guy who was very instrumental in my formative years in wrestling, where which carries on to this day, where I'm like, well, I want to go back, I want to learn more about history, I want to watch matches from wrestlers that I missed out on because of my age, because of access to tapes or whatever. So he was really like my first gateway into getting back into the past and digging stuff up. So it kind of gets to me on that level. It's a little strange. And I hope he gets better. I hope his family his family's going to push through this. And I only hope for the best. I really, really only hope for the best for Barry Windham. She being his niece Mika, set up a GoFundMe, which you can find. It's all over the internet. It's been reported on your favorite wrestling news website as well, just in case that don't necessarily follow on Twitter. Find a reputable source like Fightful or the Observer, Figure 4 Online, or Post Wrestling, someone who has a legitimate link to it, and donate if you can, of course. But now we are at that auspicious moment where I am going to say something nice about Bill Goldberg.
WarrenHayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
The first time Goldberg heard Drew McIntyre, he thought he had missed out on an art contest.
WarrenHayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
Three weeks left? Is that what we... Let me get my calendar. Is there really like 3 left? There's 3 left. There's 3 left. I have never... This is probably what a marathon runner feels like after they've done like a... What's a marathon? Like 50 kilometers? Whatever. How long is a marathon? What's a long marathon? Like, how long is a marathon? 26.2 miles. So like what, 50 kilometers about? That sounds about right. 50 kilometers. That has to be what a marathon runner feels like. What I'm feeling right now is when they see the finish line approaching, right? And they see it, but they still have to push forward. Like their cardio is through the roof, right? They're thirsty, like they can taste the thirst in their eyeballs, kind of thing. It's like every muscle in their legs hurt. If they could drag themselves, they would, kind of thing. It's like that's the feeling I have right now, where I'm like, I'm so close. Like, I'm not going to give up because I can see the end. I can touch the end of this New Year's resolution that I imposed upon myself. And I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it even if it tears me on the inside and it breaks me in twain. I'm going to make it to the very end. When I was a kid, maybe y'all know what I'm talking about here. But there's this, I remember my mother was a big sports fan and my grandfather was as well. There was, so like shit like Wild World of Sports, like on ABC and stuff like that was, constantly on when it was on, and of course you'd have all sorts of sports. And I remember like images, right? Just pictures of this one lady. She's coming in, she's winning the marathon. And we're talking, this had to be like late 70s, early 80s. Like I'm a tot. But I have this image burned into my brain of this lady running up and she's got the t-shirt and the number thing, the identifier on her t-shirt, and she's got the little jogger shorts and she's coming across, and the minute she crosses, she shits herself. She completely loses control of her bowels in a stream of diarrhea, just like starts cascading out of her shorts. And she's on fucking national television. And I'm sure this happened. I am convinced this happened. This is the kind of thing. And then I'm like, the impression is so vivid. Otherwise, I'm living some massive Mandela effect here. But she just like voided herself and she collapses, right? Because she's done. And I think that's what turned me off to doing any kind of sports moving forward. I think that's, you see someone put in like physical effort in this sport, where you're like, oh yeah, you got to surpass yourself. You got to go, no pain, no gain kind of thing. Well, what's the point of no pain, no gain and giving it your all if you're going to cross the line and have like, thousands of people on location cheering you on and tens of thousands watching you on televisions, at home, and you just cross the line and you shit yourself. And just like visibly and, just not like something, oops, kind of thing. And it's like, well, I better go to the locker room. It's like, no. It's like it's trickling down the inner thigh. Weekly wrestling inspection. This is going to be a great show. William Regal is likely on his way back to the World Wrestling Entertainment, which I affectionately refer to as the Fed. I think that legitimately, this is the third time I talk about him in a week. I talked about him last week on the podcast, right? Didn't I? I'm pretty sure I did. And then I spoke about him some more on the Dynamite review. Kind of hard not to, as it was a central angle to the show. So I mean, it's not something that you can easily skirt. I don't think I mentioned him. I don't think I don't think I brought him up on Going Broadway. But this has been the talk of the wrestling town. So we're going to break it down. We're just going to recap, just in case you're new to this, just in case you maybe like, God bless you if I'm, your only connection to the world of internet wrestling discussion and talk, God bless you. Stay away from anything else. Come join the Mr. Warren Hayes show Discord, though. Here's the breakdown, cliff notes here. So Dave Meltzer last week announced that Regal's contract was for a year, right? Because we had the whole thing. This was off the heels of the angle on Dynamite 2 weeks ago, where Jon Moxley hit the ring and told William Regal to run as fast as you can and never come back, kind of thing. So that's the thing, right? So Dave gets on Wrestling Observer Radio and he says his contract is for a year, and then he recants that affirmation on Twitter, saying that he issues a correction saying that it's for 3 years. Then a couple of days later on Wrestling Observer Radio, he says, well, it's for 3 years, but there's stuff going on backstage and I can't really talk about it because it's all off the record. But yeah, it's for 3 years. Tony's never released anyone before their contract expired. That's never happened, but there's room for precedent, right? I mean, it'd be a precedent, but it's just never happened. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just saying it never happened. But I'm not saying what's going on. And he being Dave, he kind of slipped up on his Dynamite review. Where he really did not like the brass knuckles angle on Dynamite last week, which we're completely at antithesis here. I loved it. And he says, well, why would you put all your heat on someone who's on their way out of the company? Something to that effect. But he did say, I'm slightly paraphrasing. It's not maybe an exact quote, but he did say, why would you put the heat on someone who's leaving the company? He said someone who's leaving the company, whereas we were all still in speculation mode where it's like, is Regal leaving? Is he staying? What's going on? Kind of thing. Fightful Select then jumps in and says, no, his contract's been for a year. Then wham, we get a report from PW Insider, from the boy Mike Johnson. In an update on William Regal, PWInsider.com is told that he is finalizing a new deal with WWE and is currently expected to officially start after the new year. As we previously reported, he is returning for a backstage role. That, of course, set the world afire. And then Meltzer added again on Wrestling Observer Radio that he's heard multiple stories regarding Regal's contractual status with AEW. This is a quote from Dave here. I've had so many different people tell me so many different stories. The primary source story is that his contract was short term. The WWE side says that he had an out. So in all fairness, at this point, it seems that that indeed it is set, it is done. William Regal, his time in All Elite Wrestling is about to come to an end, which is fine. Honestly, great for William Regal. And I don't think there's any reason to be surprised here if he wants to go back. And if this is a decision that he's making out of his own accord, that no one, of course, has a gun to his head, and I wouldn't see why anyway. Good for him. If this is what he wants, this is what he should go for. Good for him. I don't think there's a reason really to be surprised. Like I said, Regal was always loyal to WWE, right? He's credited the company for helping him through his rough patches and his rehabilitation, getting his life back on rails. He's super tight with Paul Levesque. We know this. His son is wrestling in NXT. Everything is there. Why not go back? And it's in a backstage role, right? Maybe one that involves less traveling, you know, probably I would even say. And maybe this is something that he wants. Because don't forget one thing. Let's keep one thing in clear perspective, right? He was fired. He didn't leave WWE, you know, say, oh, thank you very much. My time is done here. I'm going to go have Christmas dinner at K's. No, that's not what he said. He said, you know, his contract was terminated. He was fired from the company under Vince. There was no reason, there was nothing that indicated that he was miserable there. And au contraire, he has always been the epitome of class. Thanked everyone for the opportunities. And next thing you know, earlier in 2022 this year, he shows up on AEW and everyone loses their shit. And this again is proof positive that the competition in Major League Pro Wrestling right now is the best possible scenario for talent in ring and off and out the ring, backstage. If a guy like William Regal has the opportunity to weigh his options, he gets fired from one place and he's like, you know, maybe I could bring something to your company. And it's like, sure, come on in. And then after a while, it's like, you know what? The other place called me back and I really want to go back. And it's okay, go. Like, this is awesome for talent to be able to do this. There is legitimately speaking, there is no downside for talent to have healthy national competition where wrestlers can move from promotion to promotion, one side or the other, leverage one against the other to get good deals, make some money. There is nothing wrong with any of this. Pro wrestling, as you might know, is a billion-dollar industry. Why not allow the talent, the ununionized talent, why not give them all the opportunities to get the best possible deals out of this situation? Again, I can't hammer this home enough. I do not relate even remotely to anyone who wants either promotion. If we're just talking about WWE and AEW right now, I don't relate to anyone who wants either promotion to die, to go under. I do not get it. These people can go fuck themselves because they don't realize how good this is for the business. If they loved wrestling as opposed to loving their little nook of pro wrestling, if they loved wrestling, they would understand, they would see in a minute, in a heartbeat, how positive this is. But now, look, just like any situation like this, right? Just like any departure, we've got the rumors, right? And now we've got the you know, the salacious, oh, I heard this kind of thing, stuff starting to fly around, and the EC3s, you know, trying to piggyback off of this so that they can get a little more taste of online attention. Smack, smack, smack. Oh, not enough wrestlers were listening to his advice, so he left. Saying it out loud sounds so stupid, and yet this is what we're contending with. These are people. EC3, we've got, you know, who is it? Justin Barrasso, I think, was reporting this as well. So a source told me that not everyone in AEW, the locker room, was listening to William Regal, so he decided to leave. I'm like, Jesus Christ. What is this? Look, okay, let's remove the curtain of absurdity of that statement for a second, but let's play a little devil's advocate. Let's be fair here as much as I possibly can, because I have no reason to be fair. Whoever's leaking this shit is just shit and wants to tarnish William Regal. Just like, anytime someone leaves a company, they're difficult to work with, kind of thing. Like it's the same bullshit every single fucking time. And if no one sees through this by now, I don't know what to tell you. And EC3, paragon of reliability and complete 100% truth teller, EC3, definitely not a pro wrestler. Definitely not a pro wrestler, bred to lie. No. But let's be fair here. So let's just entertain the idea that he left AEW because no one was listening to his advice. No one was listening to him. Maybe. And Brian Pillman Jr. go to his defense. William Regal's defense on the internet saying, maybe not everyone, but, there were not everyone, but, some of us were very into it. It's like me, Lee, and Garcia, so, okay. I'm pretty sure William Regal has dealt with wrestler egos before. I'm pretty sure he knows what to expect. I'm pretty sure he's not going to have Chris Jericho come in and sit around one of his seminars. You know what I mean? Pretty sure he's not going to expect CM Phil back in the day to come and sit down and drink from the knowledge tree. I think that's a fair. Those are fair expectations to lay down. And William Regal is no dummy. I don't know the man. I don't know why he left. You don't know why he left. But just going, nobody's listening to me, I want to leave. That's kind of weird. That's kind of strange. That's kind of strange. Look, let's theorize a bit. This is speculation. We're just going to speculate on this just so that we can, again, be as fair as we can, but at the same time, sort of demonstrate how fucking stupid these comments are. Maybe William Regal wanted a more expansive role backstage. Maybe he wanted to be, he wanted to work more with the talent. Maybe he wanted more of a creative role. Maybe he wanted to be more of a producer. I mean, look, after all, he's, leading NXT, where he had a hand in shaping people in the performance center. He was out scouting for talent, right? Like this is a guy who's been in the business for a long, long time doing this. Maybe he's like, look, Tony, if you don't want me to do this, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm for. If you want, if you don't want to use me to the maximum of my skill set, then maybe this isn't the spot for me. And maybe Tony is like, look, William, I would love to. But look, I've promoted John Moxley backstage and Chris Jericho. I hired a bunch of producers that all worked for, your former employer too. I've got a whole bunch of people who are helping me out with producing matches, and I've got coaches, and I don't know if there's room for you specifically. Or maybe they had a legitimate sit-down talk to try and figure something out, and they couldn't come to an arrangement, to an agreement. Or William Regal was just like, look, my boy is in charge now. I mean, he's in charge. He's in charge. I want to go back. Now that the old man's gone, everything's going to be better. And maybe Tony's like, you know what? You're William fucking Regal, and I'll give you the out on your contract because you're William Regal. It could be. Because don't forget, like, favoritism in wrestling is a thing. If you have a name, if you're established, if you're a draw, if you're a star, if you're, if you are someone who is as beloved and respected, in locker rooms as William Regal is, you're going to get preferential treatment. That's just the nature of the beast at this point. I can absolutely see Tony Khan saying, look, I've got enough cooks, I've got enough cooks working on this broth right now. I would need you, I feel like if we add you in, it's a little too much because I already have this guy and this guy and this girl and this guy and this guy and this guy. And maybe Regal is like, well, look, I have a singular vision and it's my way or the highway kind of thing. We don't know, but there are so many possibilities here. It's entirely possible that William Regal was like, I want to do things my way. And maybe he's just like, I don't want to travel anymore. I can't. He has health issues. Maybe he doesn't want to be an on-air talent. He's going back to a backstage. He's going back to a backstage role in WWE, which doesn't mean he will never be on TV. We know how it goes in World Wrestling Entertainment. Just because you're a backstage person doesn't mean that you never show up on TV. But I think there's more than enough speculation to not take anything EC3 is saying. I heard that a guy who's not even in the locker room. Who is he getting this from? Who is he getting this from? Tino Sabatelli? It's all grain of salt bullshit in the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, we have to. The most important thing is that William Regal chose something that will be convenient for him, that will be the best possible situation. But even more important than that, I cannot hammer this home enough. We have a pro wrestler, a talent, right, who leveraged opportunities and was able to continue having a well-paying job even when he was fired by the old one and was hired back. And it's just that simple. And good for him. Now the contract situation is a little. I would like some clarification. Apparently Tony Khan, tomorrow being Wednesday, at the moment we're recording this, which is on Tuesday. Apparently Tony Khan is going to have some sort of media call for Final Battle. We're going to talk about Final Battle. Don't trust me. And he's supposed to give an update on, but I think it's going to be a kayfabe update. He's going to give an update on the condition, on the health condition of William Regal, or some bullshit like that. So anyone who's expecting answers on, well, did he get an out on his contract? What's the situation? That's not what's going to happen. From what I've read, it's going to be very, very much in character and story, which is fine. I think we just need to temper our expectations here. But nonetheless, I would like to know if this was an early release or not. Because if it is an early release, this is a precedent that he did indeed set, that he being Tony Khan, did not offer to anyone else so far in the history of AEW, despite a lot of people being unnerved, and the Aleister Black stuff, he wants to leave. That's it. And Andrade, he wants to leave, but he's not letting them out of this. Of course, we all know about the Aleister Black now stuff. The Aleister Black stuff now. So, of course, there's no reason, there's no precedent. So maybe he's sitting it here, which is possible. Did he have an out on his contract, which is what Dave is purporting that the WWE people said he had, which is also possible. Whether it was a year or 3 years, I couldn't give a fuck. I think right now, the overall discussion is around the fact that Regal did not finish the entirety of his contract. He left before it was officially done. I think everyone, whether you're saying it's a year or 3 years, everyone is in agreement that he did not fulfill the entirety of his original contract. Whether this is because of an out clause that he had in his contract, or Tony Khan just saying, no, we're good. We'll just terminate this nicely, shake hands, and be on your merry way. Which, when you think about it, is probably a really smart thing to do. You know, because look, William Regal was not office by any means of the imagination. Like, this is not Cody Rhodes leaving, right? He was not office. He was not management. He was a talent, but still a talent that got the pulse of the locker room, that was there throughout everything in 2022. Around there with Mox, with Danielson, the young guys, the young gals. And he's got a lot of privileged information that he can trot on over to Papa H with and say, well, look, this is what we have, Trips. This is what's going on in the back room. So if anything, I think it's a smart move for Tony Khan to sort of want to end this as smoothly as possible, knowing what the outcome is, that he's going straight back to WWE and not stir the pot or give Regal a reason to be like, well, look, I'll spill all the dirt. He'll probably share some stuff, right? There's going to be some dinners between Regal and Levesque, and they're going to sit around and they're going to, so how's things going over there? Well, this is that, and boy, CM Punk really is he's a son of a bitch, isn't he? Yeah. Maybe there's a little damage control in this, and I wouldn't blame Tony for a second to want to end this nice and smoothly. And besides, I think it's important to underscore once again how beloved and respected William Regal is in the business, by the locker rooms that he has influenced, by the people that he has helped in their career. I don't think it's a good look to go around stamping on William Regal. I don't. I really don't. I think that even if this is indeed the case, and he is leaving to WWE, maybe tomorrow night on Dynamite will be like, oh, we all got fucking worked, but I don't think so. I think that even if his time in AEW was short, it was incredibly impactful, because I feel like the creation of the Blackpool Combat Club would not have been as impactful without him. If that was the course that was set when Danielson and Moxley started jaw-jacking at each other and started wanting to fight each other all the time, if this was indeed the course for them to team up, it would absolutely not have been as impactful. I think that's the term. And now you see, look, he's leaving the Blackpool Combat Club while the thing is in tatters. Did he pull the spine out before he left? You know, doing the thing with MJF. And we don't know where anyone in the group stands. We don't know where Mox stands on this. We have an idea where Danielson stands, because he was very instrumental in the stretcher job where he got into the ambulance. Like, he's been clearly on William Regal's side. We don't know what Claudio's opinions are. We don't know what Claudio's opinions are. We don't know what what's his name, Wheeler Yuta, what his thoughts on all this are. And Yuta was already irritated at Danielson, if you'll recall. Like, there was already bubbling, simmering tensions. Will this rend the BCC apart, right? And I think this is an opportunity for a real life situation to translate into an angle, because I think it would be a mistake if they were to disband the BCC, if they were to just take it apart right now, because I don't think that would be a good thing. I believe that they should. The BCC, and maybe I'm somewhat biased, because I've talked about this in a couple of times. I think the Blackpool Combat Club has been nothing but hits since its inception. I think it's been consistently the best story AEW has going since they founded it, since it all came together, adding in members, the Wheeler, Utah stuff, Claudio, the teasing with Daniel Garcia. This is all stuff that was very, very instrumental and helped out quite a bit. How do you keep the BCC alive if Regal's not there, though? Right? There's a lot of people who says you can't, but I say, why not? Why couldn't you? Like, none of this has to be erased. You don't have to dump it, right? Don't forget, the Regal is not going to be retconned in AEW. He's not going to be an entity where we will never speak of them again, kind of thing. He will absolutely, as far as kayfabe goes, he's been injured out, right? So why not do a story where, the BCC is coming apart at the seams, hits rock bottom, but pulls itself up, kind of thing, sticks with it and rises once again. Even if Regal is gone. Regal created it, set it on fire, but maybe the members are ready to continue having it live on. And I think that's interesting. I think there's a good story to be told here. Because you could have a few weeks of tensions. Maybe they're fighting against each other, but then something happens where they all rally around each other one more time. And that would be excellent. I think there is a tremendous opportunity for some fantastic storytelling here. For a great story to be told. Because look, I would hate for the BCC to be done. One of my favorite things in AEW, top 3, unquestionably. But on top of that, it's just I wonder what will happen to a guy like Wheeler Yuta if the BCC falls to the side, if it breaks up. He had a fantastic performance with his initiation into the BCC against Moxley, which was stuff of legend, a highlight of the year, a highlight of Yuta's career. But you do kind of feel like, if it wasn't for the BCC, he would probably be a little more to the wayside. So I think he's out of the 4 guys who make up the troupe, I think he is the one who risks the most, who has the most to lose. Mox, Danielson, Claudio, all be fine. But it's their aura together that made this all fantastic. It's the aura of Mox and Danielson together that made this fantastic, first and foremost. Adding Claudio was nice, but Wheeler was really like, this is our stable, and this is the future. This is our protege that we are going to mold to be the next generation of ass kickers like us. There's no group really in AEW that represents more everything I love about pro wrestling than the BCC. And everything that has been executed until maybe fairly recently by the BCC has been spot on, wonderful, exciting for me. But all of this talk about everything I've been talking about here with William Regal and the BCC splitting up and all of that, it comes at a very interesting time in AEW. And I've got so many thoughts in regards to it. And I feel like this is going to be a hodgepodge. I think this is, I'm going to try my best to segment this out as much as possible for everyone. But I feel like this could easily turn into one of these Warren Hayes show segments where Warren is just having like this weird stream of consciousness. And it's just like, hopefully you can follow along kind of thing, But I want to ask y'all something. I want to posit something onto the live viewers and to the people watching and listening on demand. Were you compelled to watch AEW Rampage this past Friday? What were you excited at the idea of tuning into this past Friday's edition of AEW Rampage to check it out? Just in case, to make sure we're all talking about the same thing, we're talking about the November 11 edition. The December 2 edition of Rampage. It was taped on November 30. But the taped edition, AEW Rampage, that aired on December 12. It had Darby Allin versus Cole Carter, Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett versus Private Party, Athena in a squash match against Danny Moe, shout out, and the AEW All Atlantic title lumberjack match, where Orange Cassidy defeated QT Marshall. Was there anything here that you were like, hot diggity dumplings? I got to jump into this one and push back my bedtime if needed. No, hang on, boys. We can't hit the club just yet. I absolutely have got to catch Cole Carter opening up the show here. I watch it because it's, I want to say it's what I do, but it's like technically, like nobody pays me to do it. I do it out of love, and I do it out of respect for you who come here and I expect you to expect me to have watched what I'm talking about, to have actually sat down and given it a watch, so that I'm not making shit up. I think that's a reasonable expectation for you to have in regards to me. So I want to live up to that. So I watch it and I watched it live. Well, on Friday. But I am heavily emphatic to anyone who was like, no way I'm watching QT Marshall in the main event. This does nothing for me. Darby and who? I know the meme is like, oh, that's 2 dimes, that's 10 nickels, that's three quarters, that's the guy from NXT that they threw into the water, right? That they drowned, that the NXT mob boss killed. And I can absolutely understand why people were turned off by this card. Wasn't the one that I was most excited for either. And it turns out that there was a lot of people who weren't excited about it. This Friday, this Rampage landed the show's lowest ratings ever. Friday night's AEW Rampage averaged 361,000 viewers on TNT. That is down 12.2% from the previous week's episode. In the 18 to 49 demo, Rampage finished 60th on cable charts with a 0.08 rating. That's down 27.3% from last week's episode. By the way, you know what makes this doubly egregious? You know what makes this even doubly weird and disheartening and strange and baffling and whatever adjectives you want to use to express how confounded you are? All these ratings are down off of an episode the previous week that didn't even air in its same time, at its main time slot. Last week's Rampage, was in the afternoon. It was at 4 p.m. And it dipped a little, but it stayed pretty steady. Now we're back to 10 p.m. on a Friday night where Rampage has always been, and we're down 12.2% in total viewership. 27.3% down in the demo. There is absolutely no way to spin this. There's no other, you cannot spin this in any way to say, oh, well, people were burned out on Thanksgiving. No. Well, in a lot of markets, it was snowing the next day, so people were, out getting supplies. Nope. This is bad. It's very bad. Dynamite's been tumbling in the ratings too. And when I say tumbling might be a strong word. There's a downtrend. I wouldn't say tumbling. But there's a definite downtrend for a couple of weeks. And there's been a lot of grumbling online and from some of my peers and people that I really like as well regarding the creative of AEW right now. Now, I want to not too late for a preface, Warren. You can't do that, but at this point in time, I want to make damn sure that everyone is super clear that I am not subscribing to any doom and gloom scenarios. When this show, when AEW Dynamite has been so consistent in ratings and in growth for such a long period of time. There's a lot of people who are unusually gleeful that AEW is having in a bit of a slump, and that's concerning to me for the same reasons when we were talking about William Regal earlier. Competition is fantastic in wrestling. I don't know why anyone would think that it's not. I don't know why anyone would want just a singular wrestling company out there. More wrestlers performing, making money. Why would you not want more of a good thing for more people? It's the most bizarre outlook on life. So I'm not going to sit here and say, well, this is the beginning of the end, right? This is absolutely not a point in time where we're going to start talking about, okay, well, this is finished, right? This company's cooked. Do we expect truly and sincerely, and I'm being very, very earnest with you all here, do we expect a company 3 years in, about to hit 4, do we expect them to hit the levels of ratings and money that a company, its competition, has with a 40-year advantage on them? Come on now. Let's not be stupid, okay? Do we really think it's that easy to do it? Impact's been around for 20 years and it barely gets 100,000 viewers. What are we doing? Anyway, back to Rampage. Look, I've mentioned, I've talked about it a couple of times. I think everyone is pretty much in agreement that at this point, Rampage is the B show. And this was a concern that everyone has had when Rampage was announced. The Nitro and Thunder comparisons were very easy to make. And everyone was very assured. It's like, no, Tony will never see this as the B show. He'll do it. Well, now he pretty much sees it as the B show because it's booked like a B show. Unless he's booking things for the hardcore crowd. When you start bringing in Katsuyori Shibata, when you're giving us Jun Akiyama with Eddie Kingston, you're starting to talk to a different audience. And I think that is an audience, as I've mentioned multiple times, that is willing to tune into a professional wrestling show late night on a Friday night. We're not talking 9 p.m., sir. We're talking 10 p.m. on a Friday night. You know, the night that most people get the fuck out of their houses and go out for a drink or for a good time with friends or their loved one or head out for the weekend, whatever. Rampage works when Rampage speaks to the hardcore audience. Once that happens, everything's cool. Then the people tune in. We're not talking about sudden, 600,000 viewer spike. That's not what I'm saying. But you're calling in people. You're getting at them to be like, shit, I cannot not watch Katsuyori Shibata wrestle. This is his second match in 2022. This is his third match since he was told you will never wrestle again in 2017. Of course I'm going to tune in. Jun Akiyama and Eddie Kingston sharing a ring. Of course I am going to watch this, even if it just turns out to be a setup for the pre-show for your pay-per-view the next day. Because Eddie Kingston has been asking for this for a long fucking time. Jun Akiyama is his hero. Of course we're going to watch. And I think this is a recipe that would work for Rampage. Make it the hardcore show. Bring in the stars. Tony likes to bring in people from other places. He's got working relationships. This should be the show you bring them in. Just drag them in and put them there and say, bring back Mance Warner again. Or, go in, let's bring in Dragon Lee for a match, for instance. And have one of your top guys come in once in a while at the same time. Why not have a Kenny Omega on it? Let's not forget Rampage was CM Punk's, playground for a while. Tony was like, well, look, I got to get people to get used to tune in to watch Rampage, so I'm going to put CM Punk on it every week. It took I can't remember, didn't it take a while for CM Punk to show up on Dynamite? It did, right? It took like 2-3 weeks, a month before he showed up on the flagship show and he was on Rampage. And trust me, I am not talking about million ratings like they had when CM Punk made his return at the United Center. That's not what we're talking about. Or pull the fucking trigger and make Rampage the Ring of Honor show. And I swear you'll probably get people excited to see that. Look, there's something that has to happen. But I think, that may be too complex a decision to make because of partnerships and so on and so forth. It may be it might not seem as easy a flip as it seems. As it may not be an easy flip, is what I'm saying. Is what I'm trying to say. Just bring in the hardcores. Make it your show for hardcore fans, and your hardcore fans are going to show up. I can almost guarantee it. But but we're talking about Rampage, but Dynamite again, it hasn't been great. And and I feel like there's a lot of exhaustion when it comes to the booking and the stories, right? This is what we hear about, right? The stories. What's the story? This, it is look, I feel right now, I feel like AEW right now feels like it was at the end of 2019. Do you remember that? Were you around back then when the last few months closing up 2019, AEW just felt like it was all over the place. It had no direction, was kind of shit. No, the creative wasn't there. I can get behind a lot of things that are exhausting creatively, that I think they're trying to get across but aren't working. I think the Keith Lee and Swerve thing, I think it was good for a while. I don't think it's as held together as it was now. I don't think it's as compelling. As much as I was excited to see how this was going to happen, what was going to happen after Full Gear, the stuff with, the stuff with Shane Taylor on Wednesday, in retrospect, had me a little perplexed. I'm like, why are Swerve and Keith Lee back together? Why did we not have conflict resolution in front of our eyes? What is the story we're telling here? Because we're trying to tell a story, but I'm not quite sure what it means anymore. I thought we had a really good angle. I thought we had a really interesting little tidbit where it's like Swerve and Keith Lee want to have a talk privately, and then after that private talk, things seem cool again. Is Keith Lee the modern day Sting, where no matter how many times his Ric Flair being Swerve fucks with him, he'll always think, oh, Swerve's a good guy, but he'll always just be an asshole? I think there's been fumbles with Wardlow. I think Wardlow will probably be one of the bigger fumbles will be remembered as one of the bigger fumbles of 2022. I don't know why Wardlow didn't enter TNT weekly open challenge territory, just like Cody used to do. And if you want Wardlow to just come out and squash dudes from the indies, let's go ahead. Let's bring that back, because that was a lot of fun. Ricky Starks feels like he's on the precipice of a fumble. I feel like these are two sure things that haven't been going forward properly. The Chris Jericho and the JAS stuff, especially with the BCC, I think has entered general fatigue. And it surprises me, because as great as the Jericho Ring of Honor champion angle, that story was, with him wanting to dishonor Ring of Honor, as great as that was, and how good it was, how well it was executed, I failed to feel any excitement for a big payoff with Claudio. I think there's been a lot of stuff with Jericho, but we haven't been keeping focus on what is the prize here. What's the payoff? It's a match with Claudio. Okay, then. And if Claudio loses, he has to join the JS. Sure. That sounds it's a little much. It's a little much for a story that should have been just all about, Claudio coming in and being the hero for Ring of Honor, right? This match feels cold. Top tier stories are working fine. MJF, Mox, Hangman, The Elite, Danielson. Talking about it a bit. But everything is kind of hit or miss. And we're seeing this trend, I find, that stuff that should absolutely be getting the fan base excited is instead being met with a little trepidation, which is new to watching AEW. The point that my example here, the House of Black, beloved stable, not a lot of people don't like Aleister Black. Got a good troop of ass kickers with them. There was the whole mystery thing. Oh, I got to go away, so on and so forth. Recalibrate, all that jazz. And then, all of that. And now they're coming back. They've had some outings where they just destroy everyone, which is cool. And I think that is how House of Black should be booked, especially if you're wanting to create some excitement in your trios division. I think there's a good, solid argument to be made that Tony Khan should be heating up the next series of challengers for the trios champions. So that makes sense. But there's a lot of people staying on guard where it's like, hang on a second. We love the House of Black and all that stuff, but gosh darn it, things have been all over the place and, they haven't been really booked well so far. So we're a little worried here. And this is new to AEW, that this kind of feeling is becoming more and more prevalent, especially when it's in situations where you have an easy layup with the House of Black. It's an alley-oop. Am I getting my sports terminology right? It should be easy for them to do this. But fans they're a little on guard. They're like, well, I don't know. Payaso, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. But these are, now people, the thing that we always hear is that the stories, but these aren't necessarily stories, what I'm talking about. This is booking. We get lost in terminology sometimes, but there's a difference between booking and storytelling. And booking is made to create wrestlers you care about. Stories are a means to an end, but ultimately it's the booking that counts. It's either the booking is lacking, or they're trying too hard. They being AEW, I'm painting the wide picture here. They're trying too hard to make stories, Let me explain myself. One of the things that makes AEW what it is, I think its core strength, it's the in-ring part of the show. I think this is unquestionable. The wrestling. You have people in this company who are fantastic workers and have been able to shine on a weekly basis. How many times do I do the Dynamite review on Thursdays? Don't miss that. Subscribe to the channel. How many times do I do the Dynamite review and I say we are spoiled? That's it's the theme. We are spoiled by getting these matches for free on television. It's ridiculous. And you have people in this company who have got themselves over exclusively by their in-ring work, not because of their extraordinary capacity to cut promos, just charisma, in-ring work. Jamie Hayter's probably the best example. Dante Martin's another good example. Is AEW trying too hard with these stories? Is AEW listening too much to these people who are constantly saying, but where are the stories? Because there are stories. There are stories in every pro wrestling match if you let pro wrestlers do their thing. I've been harping on this for as long as I've been doing this dog and pony show right here. Why do we always talk about what's the story? What's the story? Why aren't we talking about the wrestling? Why is the wrestling never a topic of conversation when it's always like, but what's the story? What's the tale? What yarn are we spinning here? Is there a reason for this match to happen? Where's the build? And it aggravates me because, look, the built-in story to pro wrestling is professional fighters fighting to get the winner's purse and to make more money, move up the card so that they can make more money. That is the very essence of pro wrestling. The minute you start adding anything else, he stole my girlfriend. She called me. She called me at home late at night. Oh, this guy made a home invasion. The minute you start adding those things, those are means to an end. That has nothing to do with the match. Because you can have tremendous build and have a shit match. It is possible. It has happened in the past. Was the match entertaining? Did you enjoy the match? On the heels of what you watched, will you tune in next week? Because it's fucking pro wrestling. It's pro wrestling. Some of my favorite wrestling in the world happens without, all these tropes that we should be following. Video packages and, build and in-ring promos every week and pre-tapes. And you got wrestlers coming out, fighting, setting seeds, going home until it's time for the big match. And then they lay it all out on the line. You're like, fucking, this shit is great. This is why I have trouble with events like the main event of Survivor Series War Games, where the finish of the match has 4 men involved in a theater production with 1 guy on the opposing team while his 4 other members are nowhere to be found. That is not compelling storytelling to me. That suspends my suspension of disbelief. I'll add to, look, I'm sympathetic to a degree because I'm irritated. It's a subject that terribly irritates me. I expect that, many fans expect immediate and clear payoffs for stories as opposed to letting them develop, right? Which is, in essence, is what storytelling is. But the minute there's like something that breaks, is like, I don't get it. I'm not going to give it any time to breathe. And I can't blame anyone for having that type of gut reaction when you see something that you don't understand and doesn't make sense, because the market leader, the company that held the monopoly on nationally televised pro wrestling for 2 decades was so bad at storytelling that when something happened, it was either inconsequential, or there was never a payoff, or it ended up being retconned anyway. So I can understand that pro wrestling fans are naturally suspicious, let's put it that way, they are naturally suspicious about wrestling angles, immediately not, oh, I see where this is going kind of thing. I understand everything, because we had a guy for 20 years pretending to be this creative genius when in fact for weeks on end didn't know exactly how the angle was going, and he's going to let it see what happened, and if it, maybe you'd get invested into it to a certain degree, and then the payoff was ridiculous. Eric Rowan's Spider. There's a story for you. I can understand why at some point, because here's the thing. You promise a payoff, which is outside of a wrestling match. The payoff is, what the fuck is in Eric Rowan's cage? So you're creating anticipation. You're creating the expectation of a surprise of whatever's in the cage. And when it turns out it's a fake as hell animatronic spider, people are going to go, well, what the fuck? Why was I invested in this? Why did I give a fuck? Is this what you think of me? That you can't properly reward me for watching your show? Why is it that parts of history are never referenced, things that I remember, but you just want to push them away? I am a long-time watcher. Why won't you reward me as a viewer? So I can understand, even when it comes to AEW, where people are like, I don't get it, this has to move. What's the story? What's the story? There doesn't have to be a story. There doesn't have to be this intricate tale where there's, people hiding under tables, trying to pretend murder other people. That's a crutch. It's not storytelling. It's a crutch. The payoff is always the match. In many ways, WWE has won the hearts and minds battle for pro wrestling fans by letting its sports entertainment view of pro wrestling, vision of pro wrestling, it allowed it to take over the minds of millions of fans to the point that alternatives to their product break some folks because they apply the same booking patterns when there are clear differences. Again, not everything in AEW these days is great. I think we're at a low point when it comes to continuity, when it comes to storytelling. I don't think we needed a video package to remind us that Hangman Page was knocked out by Jon Moxley when everything was so clear. And anyone who has been following was rewarded by remembering and watching. AEW will more than often than not, will reward you for watching its week-to-week show. But there's stuff that's not connecting. There's stuff that's not working. And I can't help but feel that maybe the head of creative of All Elite Wrestling is listening a little too much to these business wrestling grifters out there who are sitting around saying, where's the story? Where's the story? These people who admittedly say they don't like wrestling. They like the stories. I think he's listening a little too much, and he's trying to pivot towards that instead of focusing on what he does best. And that is in-ring work. That is stories, angles that make sense in the ring. My final words on this goes as follows. Watch pro wrestling for the pro wrestling. There's no other reason for you to be watching pro wrestling if it's not for the fucking matches. If it's not to see people do excellent things in the ring, put on a show that will that will get you to stand up and cheer. And pro wrestling is not like every other television program out there. Yes, many multiple shows, even shows that you binge on Netflix or Amazon Prime or HBO Max, even those that you binge there all have previously on when they start up a show, right? They don't do that in pro wrestling. Well, I mean, not WWE does it with its recap packages, but they're not pro wrestling. They're not pro wrestling. We've had, for 20 years, someone tried to tell us that pro wrestling was sports entertainment, and most of us hated it because it focused more on the entertainment aspect as opposed to the wrestling. Now we have an alternative, a major alternative on national cable television that is a wrestling-based show. And we're saying we want more stories, we want more production packages, more recaps, all the things that irritated and loathed us while we were watching the other guys. Not every social media platform out there has to have features like Instagram. Not every wrestling company has to be the same. Embrace the differences. Again, it's not perfect. But throwing your hands up and saying they should treat this more like a television show, they should do more recaps, this is exactly the reason why AEW came into shape in the first place, is because we were tired of a sports entertainment-based product. We have a wrestling-based product. And I don't blame anyone who has trouble breaking the mold of what they know in regards to pro wrestling, because WWE has been alone in putting it on your television sets for the past 20 years. I don't blame anyone for that. Even Nitro at its best was still frustrating at times. But for fuck's sake, don't sit here and tell me on one hand I'm fed up of WWE's production and their packages and so on, and then request that AEW does exactly that because for some reason the stories aren't coming across. So in that respect, TK really has two options. He can get better at telling all of these stories, or go back to doing what this company does best, which is pro wrestling. Pro wrestling with great promos and great in-ring. Ring of Honor is having a pay-per-view this weekend, December 10, in case you're paying attention. It's called Ring of Honor Final Battle, a staple of the Ring of Honor treasury of shows, taking place in Arlington, Texas, at the College Park Center. We're gonna do a quick preview because this show has no legs. This is terrible. This kind of ties into what I was talking about earlier, just a few minutes ago, I should say, with everything that's problematic in AEW right now. This is part of it. Like, this is the thing. It's like, we're coming into a show for Ring of Honor that is ice cold. What's cooler than being cool? Ice cold. And this is not great. And there is nothing that screams pay-per-view on this show. Nothing. Coming in at $39.99 American US dollars on the Bleacher Report Live. $39.99. $40. And we are a few days removed, what, 6 days, 5 days removed from the time I'm recording this? I don't know, I'm terrible at math. And we got 5 matches announced. Sure, of course, look, the go-home show for this is going to be Friday night on Rampage. They're going to add an FTR match tomorrow on Dynamite. That is guaranteed. Apparently, Dalton and the boys have been challenging they've been talking shit to the embassy. So there you go for a trios match. They're going to add more matches. But as it stands here, this is the coldest. This is not going to do good business. There's no way this show is going to do good business for Tony Khan. What are we even doing here? And this is wild because, as I mentioned earlier, there is one match on this card that should be super hot at this point, considering on how good the angle has been building to this, but it is a dud. These are all duds. These are all matches that, in the context of a Wednesday night on Dynamite, on the Turner Network, you tune in and be like, yeah, this shit rules. But you're making me pay $40 for this? Hit the bricks. Extremely disappointed. Let's talk about it. JD Griffey and Shane Taylor versus Swerve in Our Glory. We talked about this a little earlier. I think right now, the Swerve in Our Glory angle, it's lost me. I don't think it's as compelling as I thought it would be. A lot of things happening off screen where I'm like, I have a background in the performing arts. No, but I've done improv in the day. Don't ask me to get up there and be funny for people these days. But in the day I did. And one of the cardinal rules, let's go with that. One of the absolute cardinal rules that you had to stick to when doing improv was never talk about action happening, make the action happen, right? There's a difference between setting up a scene and saying, hey, you know what I did last week? I went to the car wash and boy, it was so wacky because I got into the car wash and instead of, soap coming out, it was liquid nitrogen. And that just turned my car completely to ice and it just shattered and it was a Lamborghini and was instead. See, you see why I'm not doing improv anymore? So there's a difference between talking about a scene that happened and acting it out. And acting out the scene is much more interesting. It's much more interesting. That's what people want to see. I don't know, it's not doing it for me. Shane Taylor popping up on AEW Dynamite last Wednesday kind of popped me. Former partner of Keith Lee in the past, of course. Shane Taylor also of Shane Taylor Productions, a prominent stable in Ring of Honor. I think he hung around MLW for a while as well. There's also let me put it this way. I was surprised to see him, but happy to see him nonetheless, because I think he's a guy who deserves a break, but he's a guy who might get into his own way at the same time. So, look, the point is that I think he deserves this type of larger exposure break. I wish he'd bring in O'Shea Edwards with him. I don't know what the deal is there. But this is, I'm happy for him overall. despite him having a bit of a reputation. We'll see how this leads. Sometimes, you get a piece of humble pie and it's what was missing to your meal to finish it off, right? You know what I mean? So anyway, we have this that they're probably going to build a little more than they have, but it's all very up in the air. And I'm like, okay, what the hell is going on? Okay. I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know. The only match here that has a modicum of interest on my part is the Ring of Honor Women's World Title match where Mercedes Martinez, who has been like just completely absent, like as much as they've been parading the Pure Champion and the Ring of Honor Champion and the TV Champion, our Women's Champion has been nowhere to be seen. Like just completely absentee, which is insane because Mercedes Martinez is a very good professional wrestler. I don't understand this. You're going to give time to fucking, Madison Rain. I don't know why I couldn't come up with her name. You're going to tell me, I got no time for Mercedes Martinez. Put your women's division's best foot forward, man. Holy shit. And the reason why this has been compelling with Athena is her heel turn that she has been on, which has been absolutely remarkable. Ever since she had that dark match with Jody Threat where she may or may not have delivered a receipt, we don't know, where she got a little aggressive and the internet got all concerned, trolling and whatnot, and saying, oh, she's too harsh, she should be working light. People who've never watched a wrestling show in their lives, who will watch NXT champions deliver flying knees that will whiff completely, like a meter away from the intended destination, which would be a person's chin. They'll be like, oh, what the knee? These people will look at Athena work and be like, oh, she's too hard. She's going to hurt someone. It's fucking pro wrestling. Athena has never been this interesting. Athena has, well, not never. Hang on, let me recant that a little bit. It has been a fucking long time since Athena's been this interesting, this compelling. Whether it was planned or not, with Jody Threat, whether it was planned or they leaned into it, it has worked. And Athena has been enjoying every second of it. On Rampage, we talked about Rampage earlier. Very dull, very boring Rampage. But by God, that Athena squash match was entertaining. That was fun. And this is another bit of another bone of contention here. Or people are like, oh, if only it happened on the main shows, all this heel turning stuff. Well, what can you do? It's not happening on the main shows. I agree. This would have been a perfect angle for, just a little something to throw on another women's match, getting Athena over more. That's the advantage here. I just think it would have put Athena over more. Giving her the 3-minute squash on Rampage every week, not on Rampage, on Dynamite every 2 weeks or so. Which has built more and more heat. Again, questionable decisions. I can't quibble with people who are like, I am not watching the dark and dark elevation of matches on the YouTube. I cannot do it. I'm not going to quibble with them. But, a lot of these people watch fucking NXT. And I'm like, well, what are you getting out of that? Anyway. Oh, I'm going to get some DMs. Anyway, the Athena heel turn has been working. It's been good. So all signs point to her becoming the new Ring of Honor Women's Championship. And hopefully, again, Tony Khan will just book this properly. I'm not talking stories. I'm not talking suddenly, they're doing these backstage segments or all this bullshit. Hopefully, he will book this properly so that Athena will get over, that the Ring of Honor Women's title will no longer be persona non grata, and we'll just be able to move on. And it breaks my heart because you know what? Mercedes Martinez deserved to have a huge platform like this for her career. She deserved it. WWE didn't know what the fuck to do with her. They dropped the ball with her. And I can't believe that the place where I was like, this is going to be great, this is the perfect fit, they're doing the same. Ring of Honor World Television title match, Samoa Joe's defending against Juice Robinson. I got nothing personal against Juice. I really don't. I've always stuck up for Juice. In a world of Juice haters, I'm not his number one fan. But Juice has had some very good matches this year. Juice is primed for a reinvention. He's Bullet Club and he's rock hard. But this is not a pay-per-view driver. When Juice Robinson has had all but one match on AEW television, right? 2 at the most. We're gonna get the answer here. This year, he's had one match in AEW. He wasn't even on the Forbidden Door show. What are we doing? This is not a buy driver. This is not something that is going to have the people pour in to watch the show. This is absolutely a quarter hour 3 squash match on Dynamite on a Wednesday to get the Samoa Joe pop and continue heating him up. This is not a Ring of Honor pay-per-view match. What are we even doing? You have the Pure title. Daniel Garcia, defending against Wheeler Yuta. We've seen the match. I don't mind rematches. I really don't. In an industry where opportunities are left to slip by because, it's not quite time, it's not quite the place, we don't have this, that in place. And, so if you have the match, use it. If you have the people, have them fight. As it stands, Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia, it's going to be great. Is it a driver for buys? I don't know, but this has all the potential to be a fantastic match. I think this can be better than the match they had when Garcia won the title off of Yuta. I think they have a better one in them. I know they do because I've seen them wrestle better than that. Not that it was bad, don't get me wrong. I think what I'm trying to say is that this one has the potential to be special. This one has the potential for Tony Khan to tell the boys, guys, go steal the show. And they'll do it. And I like pure title rules. I don't know. World title match, Chris Jericho, the champion, defends against Claudio Castagnoli. Cold as ice, and there's no reason for. I talked about it a little earlier, but let's underscore it here. No reason that this match should be this cold. No reason at all. This is just poor booking. Stories. No, it's not even stories. It's not stories. It's booking. Just the basic element of it. This is cold as ice, and there's no reason why it should be. Chris Jericho, Ring of Honor champion, bringing dishonor to the world title is it's a no-brainer of an angle, and it was done it was done exceptionally well, and it was entertaining, and it was fun, and it made sense, and it was good. He's like, trying to beat up Ian Riccoboni, and everything about it should have led to this super hot match with Claudio, the savior, coming in to say, look, you know what? Ring of Honor is important to me. I know he said it, but that's the point. This is to my point earlier about stories versus let's get some shit done in ring. Let's get some people out there cutting promos. There's a difference between doing a 30-second pre-tape and having Claudio come out, kick some ass, Chris Jericho popping up and saying, you're never going to touch this again, and having a back and forth. But doing the talking in ring, because that's all that Chris Jericho's been doing. This is why this angle has been so good. He's been saying, I'm going to bring dishonor to the title, and that's what he's been doing. Winning by cheating, doing bullshit, being an asshole. Where has been the hero? Where has been Claudio, the hero, coming in to save the day? He's been nowhere to be found. He was sitting around in fucking Nashville with Jake Hager and that stupid ass gimmick that he has going, and 2.0 and Dan Garcia. Where the fuck? I know Jericho was in Australia, but was this really the best you could do? Set up a match for Dynamite this week? There is no reason to get excited for this pay-per-view. There's nothing on this card put together where you're like, oh, this is going to be a good one. I know, I've seen the discussions, people were, oh, but they're going to add an FTR match. It's going to be fine. Who's it going to be? Who's going to be the thing? They can't run the Briscoes again, or can they? What's going to be the thing? Who's going to cost them the shot? Who's going to cost them the shot at the Acclaim this week on Wednesday? You know this is what's coming, what's boiling here. This is what we're leading to. This is very disappointing. You know, it's not even something where it's not as much as I'm angry. I'm like, you know what? I wanted Ring of Honor to finish 2022 on a good note. And look, the thing is that probably the card is going to be very entertaining. And I am going to end up watching it. Don't get me wrong. We're going to talk about it next Tuesday. Unquestionably, we're going to review it. But there's no heat to it. It is this is not, again, you know, I like to talk about the business aspect of stuff here on the podcast because I think it's important to have that in your toolkit as a fan. I don't think this is one that's going to drive business. I don't think there's nothing here that screams tons and tons of buys. Let me look at how great I'm prepared here. Death Before Dishonor did 36,000 buys. Right? And that was a big increase from Supercard of Honor. Supercard of Honor was as last reported, 19,200 buys, which was very good. 36,100 buys for Death Before Dishonor, which was headlined by FTR and Briscoes too. The 2 out of 3 falls match, which that was it. That carried the buys for this pay-per-view because the first match was so excellent. Now we got nothing here. I wouldn't be surprised if we fall back to Supercard of Honor levels. 20,000, 19,000. I wouldn't be surprised. And even there, you could make it, you could probably make a compelling argument to me that it will probably do less. If I were to low end it, 15,000 buys. If you want to low end it. It's crazy. $19,200 buys for Supercard of Honor, up to 36,000. I say we're back down around 20,000. Low end, 15. Cold as ice. I was able to catch up a little, a lot, significantly, enough with the World Tag League and Super Junior Tag League. And you know, I did not watch I did not watch the entire tournament. And I made that, you know, if we go back in time, just a couple of months ago, when we were talking about World Tag League and Super Junior Tag League over in New Japan, and the previews were coming out, and I was saying, you know, look, I would be excited for a World Tag League that brings in, you know, a bunch of people from the outside. You know, if FTR is in it, you know, if they're still IWGP champions, which they were, like, let's add them to the mix and have them do the round robin. And I think that would be a great punctuation mark for exclamation mark. You know, let's not be just very general and say punctuation mark. Let's call it an exclamation mark for to finish up their year. I was like, and you guys and gals and non-binary pals know that I'm not a big fan of the tag team division in New Japan. It's just a couple of guys, and it's not all that exciting. So I'm like, look, anything that you can do to inject some new blood into this will get me excited. Well, turns out I wasn't quite served what I wanted. FTR was nowhere to be found, probably because of obligations brought onto to them by Tony Khan. But you know, Aussie Open, a lot of people, it's Aussie Open. I'm like, yeah, but they're signed by New Japan. Like, it's not something that came out of nowhere. I'm like, of course, if you're going to do fucking World Tag League, put Aussie Open in it, right? Shane Hayes and Mikey Nichols, they're back. You know, cool, yes, but again, both guys, you know, they've been working New Japan, so not a big story. Lance Archer, yeah, in a tag team with Minoru Suzuki, so you know what that means. Not gonna win. So we get, you know, the usual things, and we get the usual stuff. We get a young Lion team, which is exciting, but you know, it turns out that everything in regards to World Tag League just turned out to be a little disappointing for me. And I was like, look, I'll watch some highlights. I'll, you know, check out some reviews and see what people are talking about, and I'll watch those matches. And then again, I cut a lot short. Whereas Super Junior Tag League came in hot And I liked the lineup, and I was like, well, do I really want to commit to this and watch the entire thing? And I was like, maybe not. And now, to be honest, I kind of regret it. Because from what I saw, it is excellent stuff. Some fantastic teams, some ups and downs, just some good stuff all around, really. Some good stuff all around. And if anything, like honestly, frankly, I regret not going hard, all in, like I do with the G1 for Super Junior Tag League, bare minimum. Because I find it is particularly good. I think the tag teams are really, really good. Look, let me throw out a few observations, thoughts, analyses here. Right now, on the side of World Tag League, Aussie Open are winning the tournament. They're at the top right now with 14 points. The Mighty Don't Kneel, Shane Hayes, Mikey Nichols at 10 points, tied with Tetsuya Naito and Sanada, and Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi. Then at 8 points, we have Great Khan and Aaron Hanare, Hiroshi Tanahashi and Toru Yano. At 6 points, we have Minoru Suzuki and Lance Archer. 4 points for Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens. Chase Owens, who had to leave the tournament early due to a death in the family. So they have been disqualified for the rest of the tournament. The Young Lions team of Alex Coughlin and Gabriel Kidd come in at 2 points, and Evil and Yujiro Takahashi are at 2 points as well. This show here, and by the way, our condolences to Chase Owens and his family on their loss. Our thoughts go out to you. Aussie Open are being properly introduced to Japanese fans in this tournament. This is what this was for. I don't think there's any surprise really at how strongly they're being booked. I believe that they have that they only have one loss at this point, which is to the LIJ boys. But this was Gato's way to bring Aussie Open to the forefront of the division, introduce them to I say Japanese fans, but New Japan fans as well. We, can't necessarily assume that everyone watches Rev Pro, for instance. So they're making a big mark here, and honestly, I think this was expected. Now they seem to be on the trajectory to win the tournament. The question that I have here, and I know a couple of people have also brought it up, but I guess it creates a bit of a hive mind situation because I've thought of it as well. Is once we get to Wrestle Kingdom and FTR show up to defend the IWGP titles, is your Wrestle Kingdom Tag Team Championship match going to take place between two Gaijin wrestlers, two Western teams, two Western tag teams, as opposed to having one, as opposed to having a team of Japanese wrestlers facing FTR, and that's a very interesting wrinkle. And I think the fact that Naito and Sanada, if they're still high up there, Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi as well. But I think what makes this interesting is that Naito and Sanada are still very much in the race, and Naito has nothing scheduled for Wrestle Kingdom yet. He's got nothing. And the story of the G1 this year for Naito was, will he be able to have like this final great Wrestle Kingdom moment? Like it's slipping away from him. Will he be able to make it? And he wasn't able. So is this a consolation prize? Does this add into this tale that we're weaving for Naito? Where it's like, well, couldn't make it on the singles, but here you go. Here's a tag team match for you for the titles. Because otherwise, what do you do with Naito of significance for a singles match right now? Do you give him Great O'Khan? Great O'Khan will probably have a big match. Is that what you do? They like Great O'Khan. Would that be the guy? Do you give him, who else? Every one of the top people is locked up. Tanahashi? We're just going to have a few weeks after this to build up. We're less than a month removed from Wrestle Kingdom at this point. So, as much as Aussie Open seems like the shoe-in, I think there's an argument that Naito and Sonata might do this. Because Gedo in his booking, he likes to, in his round robins, he likes to push forward one team or one guy, make him very, very dominant in the block, while in the meantime, he's got a couple of contenders, simmering underneath. And then as we get to the top, as the round robin wraps up, is what I'm trying to say, then suddenly, this one comes from behind, suddenly gets a couple of big wins, and now they I could see him doing that with Naito and Sonata. TMDK have been a lot of fun. I think Mikey Nichols has been a revelation during this tournament, for what I've seen. The more I watched Great O'Khan and Aaron Henare in the tournament, and this is, I felt like they didn't mesh as a tag team. I feel like there's a disconnect between the two, and there's a lack of chemistry there. I think O'Khan and Cobb work better. Henare, as much as I think he's fantastic. I think he's got some great power moves, and I loved how they were building him in the G1 as well. I think he had a remarkably good G1 this year. All this is sort of, I know it's been thrown together because it was probably Jeff Cobb who was destined for this spot, but Jeff Cobb had some personal business to attend to. I don't know. This faction of the United Empire just ain't doing it for me. But the Get Yo podcast is doing it for me. Nice to see you. Just welcome. So it's it's interesting to me that this chemistry doesn't quite exist. Now, if we talk about Super Junior Tag League, which frankly I have watched more of, Ace Austin and Chris Bay, Bullet Club are leading the pack with 12 points, and by God, this has been so much fun, and these two being in Japan as Bullet Club have been a nice reinvigoration of Bullet Club at the same time. And Ace Austin is over with the crowd. Chris Bay is great. Like, these two guys, they're fantastic. Just fantastic. And they've kind of outgrown Impact Wrestling, if you ask me. TJP and Francesco Akira are at 10 points. They're tied with Alex Zane and El Lindemann, and the team of Bushi and Titan, and the team of Yo and Leo Rush. Taguchi and Clark Connors are at 6 points. Robbie Eagles and Tiger Mask at 4, tied with Yoshinobu Kanemaru and Doki. Kushida and Kevin Knight are at 2 points. They round up the bottom with Sho and Dick Togo also at 2 points. So, Catch 22, which is TJP and Francesco Akira's team, They're just pushing forward. They're the champions right now, and they are a fantastic tag team. These are two guys. They started teaming this year, just a few months ago. It's been great. Like, they have put on surprisingly good matches. And when I say surprisingly, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that these are bad wrestlers that are suddenly putting on good matches. You know, TJP, for good and ill, is an extraordinarily talented professional wrestler. Francesco Akira has gained nothing but confidence since the Best of Super Juniors. He has been so good, and this United Empire environment has clearly been good for him. It's been a blast. This is one of the things that's unfortunate when you turn to online discourse sometimes, because there's a lot of people who will purposefully avoid throwing flowers to TJP for numerous reasons. You know, his reputation precedes him, whatever. When in reality, this team has been a success story for 2022. This has been a revelation. These are two guys who Gato said, okay, now you guys you're wrestling, you're a team now, let's go. And he was like, all right, fuck it. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it for real though. Just great matches. I've seen most. I'm pretty sure I saw everything they did in the tournament. It's been fantastic. Yo and Lio Rush. Lio Rush. This is a tour that he's on, I think, where he wants to tell everyone, you know what, I'm serious about pro wrestling. I want to do this again. I'm in now. Okay? And again, this is another guy that people will easily poo-poo on because of his multiple retirements, right? And so on. But I do feel there's a light here. There's something, and I think he's in Chaos now. I think he's like officially a member of Chaos with Yo. And I didn't think I was going to enjoy this tag team as much as I did, as much as I am. Very good. And again, Lio Rush has a crackling fire lit under him right now. You can feel it. You can see he's back to doing this shit that only Lio Rush can do. Go back 5 years ago when you were watching your very first Lio Rush matches and you were just sitting there with your slack-jawed, right? And you go, holy shit. This guy is doing things that humans cannot do. And yet there he was. The misdirection, like everything. Smooth, precise. I still think wrestling is better off with Lio Rush in it. I really do. Those have been highlights. Alex Zane and El Lindemann, top contenders. I don't think they're going to win. I don't think they're pulling forward here with the big victory. I don't think doesn't make sense. It's a nice new excursion, another excursion for Alex Zane, who clearly the office is really liking. Pairing it up with El Lindemann, apparently, because at first I thought the pairing was odd, but apparently Alex Zane has worked with the Strong Hearts in GLEAT. So that pairing ultimately makes sense. So, you know, you've got El Lindemann up there with him. It's going well. The Kushida Kevin Knight team has been a bit of it's been a coming out party, if I can borrow the expression, for Kevin Knight, who has come across as a great worker. Just a great worker and a generous one at that. A guy that has, like I discovered here in this tournament. I'm like, this dude is solid as hell. This guy he's world class. Kushida on the other side, though, I think has been boring. I don't think this tour has done him any favors. There's no excitement for Kushida to be back, and his matches have all been very by the book. It's as if he's going through the motions. I don't know if he's disappointed. I don't know if he's distraught. I don't know if he's not at the place he wanted to be in his career now. But there's, as opposed to Lio Rush, I don't see the Kushida fire right now. I just don't see it. Kevin Knight, though, holy shit. And showing to Dick Togo, not that long ago, Sho was mixing it up with the heavyweights, and he was fighting, Shingo Takagi, world champion. People, and he was having extraordinary matches, and extraordinary matches with him. And we were like, Jesus Christ, break up Sho and Yo, Roppongi 3K. Let's break this shit up. And let's show off on his merry way. Because this guy's the future. This guy has a bright and brilliant future as a junior or a heavyweight. And this is where we're at now, where he's, doing Assassin's Creed cosplay and swinging wrenches at people and doing goofy spots with fucking Dick Togo. And there is no way that doing the House of Torture bullshit has helped his career. In no way, shape, or form. No way. Well, and we all had that thought when this group was put together. Evil and Yujiro and Dick Togo. What the fuck are you going to do? How is this anywhere near a compelling group moving forward for anyone? Fucking Yujiro, Evil, Dick Togo. Oh, we need our junior. We need the junior member. Let's get Sho. Terrible call. He's committed to the act. Good for him. But everything that allowed us to see the brilliance of Sho, that gave us, that excited us for the future, that had us, as Chat said, staying up in the middle of the night to lose our minds as he fought Takagi. It's all gone. It's not there. And as I'm watching it, I'm like, Jesus Christ. Am I sitting here right now and saying he would have been better off with Roppongi 3K? Can you imagine right now? Right now, it is fucking Yo who is shining alongside Lio Rush. No disrespect to Yo, but Yo has always been he's the Marty Jannetty. That's what was preordained anyway. It's a little extreme. He's not like, a complete disaster. But Sho was the star. And this is what we're doing here. And I'm sitting here going, well, geez Luis. They should have kept Roppongi 3K going. Anyway, I'm not going to waste too much time on World Tag League because, again, I don't think it's all that interesting. Frankly, I think it's between Aussie Open and the LIJ boys. And I promise you, as much as Aussie Open makes probably the most sense, knowing how Gedo's booking goes, I would not be surprised if Naito and Sanada move forward and win the tournament to face, because Naito has nothing for Wrestle Kingdom right now. I wouldn't be surprised, because this is also part of Gedo's booking. Gedo then is like, well, Aussie Open had a dominant World Tag League, so they're going to be a force over the course of the year. Gedo doesn't book super short term. He's a long term kind of guy, so he'll have them, in important angles and matches throughout 2023, because right now they've established themselves as a top team in the company. That's just how his booking works. But I think it's I think the standings for Junior Tag League are a little more interesting here. I think here's something that I'd like to talk about, because right now, as we said, the Bullet Club team of Ace Austin and Chris Bay are at the top with 12 points. Now, they have, if I'm looking at the graphic here, everyone has 2 matches left. There's 2 matches left, which is leading us into the finals, which are going to be on December 14th. So again, like in just a week. Austin and Bay have TJP and Francesco Akira left, but that's their last match. That's probably even going to be the main event of the final night of tournament action. And their next match is against Alexander and Lindemann. Now, I would, whereas TJP and Francesco Akira, they also have a match against Kushida and Kevin Knight, which they're absolutely going to win. So that would bring them up to 12 points, which would be to tie with Ace Austin and Chris Bay. Austin and Chris Bay, I think it is very, very plausible to see them defeat Alexander and Lindemann. I think that makes sense. I think it's going to be a great match on top of that, but I think it makes sense that these guys are going to that these guys might defeat them, bring them up to 14 points, which will lead us then to the final match between TJP and Francesco Akira, who will be at 12 points. But if they beat Austin and Bay, they tie, but then Catch 22 win because of the tiebreaker, and they win the tournament. I think the champions are going to win, and then that means that they get to pick their opponents for Wrestle Kingdom, and I think that makes sense. I think Yo and Leo Rush are going to have a final push, because I think those are going to be the opponents. Because you can also make an argument for Yo and Leo Rush. I believe that the Wrestle Kingdom match is Catch 22 versus Yo and Leo Rush. I think that's the Wrestle Kingdom match for the junior tag titles, because Yo and Leo Rush have been pushed. They've had a lot of attention pushed onto them. The team, they even had the teamwork North America. That's how it was formed here. They've been given a lot of spotlight, and they have 10 points. So even outside of all of this, let's take a look here who they have left. Yo and Leo Rush have Taguchi and Clark Connors. That's absolutely, positively a win for them right there. So they can get 12 points there. And Bushi and Titan on the final night, with whom they are tied right now at 10 points. Bushi and Titan have Tiger Mask and Robbie Eagles, who again, it's absolutely plausible that they might beat. So So these guys might come into the final night with 12 points as well. Akira and TJP could lose their last two matches too. I mean, it's not impossible to see that because it's also part of Gedo's booking, right? It's also a part of what Gedo likes to book. But I really feel like the main event is going to be Ace Austin, Chris Bay versus Catch 22. And TJP and Francesco Akira are going to win the tournament, which is completely fair because they have, as I mentioned, they have been an excellent tag team. And I think their challengers, since they get to pick their challengers, I think they will pick Yo and Leo Rush, and that will be a fantastic Wrestle Kingdom match for the junior titles. I think it'd be great. We're all going to find out who's heading over to, who's going to end up going to Wrestle Kingdom on the 14th. Where we're going to have the Super Junior Tag League final match. The finals for the Super Junior Tag League and the World Tag League. But on top of that, we've got a couple of other matches on the card that have been announced at this point, taking place on, again, December 14th in the Sun Plaza Hall, Miyagi, Japan. Kazuchika Okada and Master Wato and Tama Tonga are going to take on Gedo, Jay White, and Taiji Ishimori. Starting to build up a little more that Kazuchika Okada, Jay White feud, and Master Wato and Taiji Ishimori are going to be in that four-way match for the junior title at Wrestle Kingdom. Gedo's there to take the loss, to take the pin here. And then on this night, the most anticipated match of the year, the one that has all of the internet buzzing that people have been talking about for weeks upon weeks at this point, who have been waiting with bated breath for this to come about. A match that has all the heat in the world, that has elevated everything, and everyone's attention is turned on this match here. Carl Anderson will be defending his never openweight title against Hikuleo. I swear, like if there has to be equal amounts of discourse regarding this once Hikuleo wins. Hikuleo is the greatest, has got to be the greatest champion of all time moving forward. Because people were so pissed off that the never open weight title was being held hostage by Carl Anderson. That traitor, that mercenary. All your angry tweets and your frustrated letters to the editor, those still exist? All of those they absolutely have to translate into subscriptions to New Japan World so that you can get in on this. Wake up at 3 a.m. and watch it. And shake your fist at Carl Anderson, that phony, when he loses the title. Shit has died down. Something fierce. Something fierce. As much as everyone was so mad. Mad. Barely hear a peep about it anymore. Oh, there we go. We'll just wrap up the weekly wrestling inspection on that. How about that? There we go. We're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna wrap it up for today. It was a good show. It was a fun show. It was full of topsy-turvy twists and turns. No, not really. But I enjoyed it. Lots of editorializing. Hope everyone enjoyed it as well. But because I'm very glad that everyone who joined us live here tonight was able to make it. I appreciate it. Of course, we record live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. If you're listening on demand right now, consider one last time giving the video a like. That would be fantastic. And on your favorite podcast app, hey, a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify always helps the podcast grow. I will be back on Thursday for the AEW Dynamite review per usual. So that'll be exciting. And don't forget, this Saturday, I'll be joining the French side of wrestling fandom over on Lariate to break down the French community's best of the year, top 30 lists. It'll be exciting. So be sure to check that out. I get to speak in French for a couple of hours. That'll be fun. But in the meantime, look, thank you all very much for joining me once again. Hope you have a great rest of your week. And I'll see you next time.